Before starting the video, I'm going to make a playlist of this anime series, as it's very long and still ongoing. If you like this video, then hope you stay with us and consider like and subscribing. Let's start our anime recap.
Our story kicks off in the year 1830. In the very first scene, we hear the chilling cries of a young girl screaming and begging for help. Her father, completely unmoved, slaps her to the ground without hesitation. All of this happens while her older brother watches helplessly from the side, unable to do anything. The father then grabs her by the hair and drags her outside, ignoring her desperate pleas for mercy. She continues to scream, but he shows no remorse. He throws her into a shed, locks the door, and leaves her to sit there in the dark, completely alone and hopeless. Later that night, as the rain begins to pour, her brother Jincha sneaks out to check on her, but when he opens the shed door, she's gone. His umbrella drops as panic sets in. He takes off running at full speed, calling out for her, Suzune, over and over again until his legs give out and his voice cracks from shouting. Finally, he spots her standing alone in the middle of the street, drenched in rain. When she turns around, we see her bandages have come undone. Her right eye glows bright red, completely different from her normal eye, different from any human's eye, and that's the reason for her father's abuse. Suzune is half demon. Her father refuses to acknowledge her as his daughter. He doesn't see her as family, only as a monster. But Jinta sees her differently. He rushes over, apologizing through tears for standing by and doing nothing to protect her. But Suzune doesn't blame him. In fact, she wants him to leave, to stay away from her for his own safety. Jinta refuses. Instead of leaving her behind, he grabs her hand and they run through the night, through the rain, until Suzune becomes too exhausted to keep going. They take shelter in an abandoned shack, and Jinta does his best to keep her warm.
Suddenly, a mysterious man appears, extending his hand to help. With nowhere else to turn, the siblings accept. The next thing we see is Jinta waking up. He's being carried piggyback by the same man as he leads them to his home, a village of blacksmiths where many are raised either to forge swords or to wield them. When they arrive at the man's house, he's greeted by his daughter, a girl around Jinta's age who's surprised to see two strangers at the door. He tells her, "These pigs need a new home. From now on, they'll be living with us." She's caught off guard at first, but quickly warms up to the idea. She introduces herself as Shiryuki. Jinta introduces himself, and while Suzune is hesitant at first, she eventually follows suit. Despite their different reactions, Jinta seems stunned and overwhelmed while Suzune clings to him tightly. It becomes clear this is their new family. That night, unable to sleep, Jinta talks with the man who saved them, Motoharu. Jinta assumes he must be a samurai since he always carries a sword, but Motoharu explains that he's actually a sentinel, someone assigned to protect key people or treasures. The next morning, Jinta begins sword training under Motoharu. With no school to attend, the children spend the whole day together. Jinta, Suzune, and Shiryuki head to the river to play, eventually joined by one of Shiryuki's friends, Chitose. After a full day of goofing off, they head back to the village. Jinta carries Suzune on his back while chatting with the others. As they walk, Chitose's mother calls her home, so she says goodbye and heads off. During the walk home, Motoharu brings up Shiryuki's mother, who hasn't been seen around the house. It turns out she's not gone, she just doesn't live with them. That's because she's the Itsuki Mai, a kind of holy priestess of the village. She lives full-time at the shrine and is only ever visited by the village chief and her personal sentinel, Motoharu. Shiryuki admits she hasn't seen her mother in years, but instead of dwelling on it, they head home. We fast forward a bit. It's now 1833. Jinta is still training with Motoharu, but he's frustrated. Years have passed and he still feels like he's not improving. Motoharu assures him real growth happens in small, invisible ways. You may not see it day by day, but over time, change becomes clear. After training, Shiryuki comforts Jinta, patting him on the head and saying she's there for him. Jinta blushes, clearly crushing on her. When Suzune walks in, he's extra embarrassed, but the girls just laugh it off. We jump ahead again, this time several more years. Jinta is now fully grown, serving as a sentinel, just like Motoharu once did. He's become a protector of the village, fighting off man-eating demons. In a meeting with the current village chief, they discuss a recent attack. Jinta had faced a demon disguised as a human. The chief mentions how demons can live for centuries. One such demon even devoured the previous Itsukime, Shirayuki's mother, before being taken down by Motoharu in a battle that cost him his life. The real fear now, the demons are after the village's sacred sword, the yakai, passed down through generations of Itsukime. Shirayuki, now grown and serving as the new Itsukime, has taken her mother's place. Jinta has taken Motoharu's place, serving as her sentinel. Once the meeting ends, Jinta stays behind. Shirayuki steps out of her sacred chamber, a radiant figure now carrying the full aura of the priestess. But she drops the formal act when it's just the two of them. Despite her role, she's still just the same village girl who grew up with Jinta. They talk, and Shirayuki brings up Suzune. She's at the shrine, though she shouldn't be. Jinta finds her sleeping, scolds her for sneaking in, but quickly melts. He's too caring to stay mad. Suddenly, someone approaches. Suzune runs off before the visitor, the village chief, arrives. He asks Jinta to step out for a private conversation with Shirayuki. He hesitates. Sentinels are supposed to stay close, but Shirayuki insists. As he leaves, we get flashbacks. The funeral of Motoharu and the previous priestess. Shirayuki stood tall, not out of coldness, but determination. That day, she decided to become the next Itsukime, and in response, Jinta vowed to become her sentinel. Back in the present, two demons sit watching from afar. They say they found her, the one they're after, and it's Suzune. The next morning, Jinta finally has some time off. Suzune is thrilled to spend time with him, but suddenly Shirayuki shows up, with permission from the chief, and asks Jinta to spend the day with her. A happy Suzune smiles and says she's fine staying behind, but there's clear jealousy behind her eyes. As Jinta and Shirayuki walk through town, people are stunned. Most of them haven't seen her since childhood. They visit Chitosa's shop, but even Chitosa doesn't recognize her. It hurts, but this is the life Shirayuki chose. They eat, talk, and eventually visit the river, the same river where she first declared her intent to become the priestess. She tells Jinta that she's going to marry Kiyomasa, the chief's son. It's political. She needs to have a child. And Kiyomasa is a sentinel and heir to the village leadership. But she confesses something. She's in love with Jinta. Always has been. She says she'd run away with him if he asked, but Jinta refuses. They both made their choices years ago. Their duty to the village comes first. Shirayuki agrees. She'll stay as Itsukime. Jinta will remain her sentinel. Jinta is then tasked with hunting down two demons spotted near the forest. As he heads out, Kiyomasa confronts him, throwing shade over the whole love triangle. Jinta doesn't take the bait. Meanwhile, Suzune is home alone, holding Jinta's clothes, clearly obsessing over him. That's when the demon lady appears. She tells Suzune she's a demon, just like her. Annoyed, she denies it. She's human. But the demon presses on, saying someone is trying to hurt Jinta and offers to help if Suzune uses her hidden powers. Suzune claims she has no powers. The demon replies, "That's okay, just come with me, you'll understand soon."
So?
She shows Suzune a vision. Shirayuki undressing, about to sleep with Kiyomasa.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
It breaks her. In the forest, Jinta battles the male demon. It's brutal. He loses an arm, but fights on. He manages to pierce the demon's heart just as he collapses. Before dying, the demon says his job was just a distraction. The real goal, to awaken the demon of all demons living inside the village. Suzune. The demon gives Jinta a parting gift, a final attack that leaves him unconscious. Back at the shrine, Shirayuki prepares herself for Kiyomasa.
ほら、本当だったでしょ?
Then, the demon lady crashes through the wall, with Suzune, now standing behind her. Shiryuki asks why. Suzune accuses her of betrayal, of taking Jinta away from her, of faking their bond, of being the reason she suffered for years. She rips off her bandages, revealing her demon eye once again. The demon lady tells her, maybe the priestess should just die. A surge of black smoke erupts. Suzune transforms, golden hair flowing into her true demon form. Kiyomasa tries to protect Shiryuki, but the demon lady one-shots him. Suzune picks up the sacred sword and faces Shiryuki. Meanwhile, Jinta wakes up. His arm is miraculously healed. He runs back to the village, but it's in flames. He reaches the shrine too late. Suzune stands there. Shiryuki lies decapitated, her body stabbed over and over again. And before Jinta can even process what's happening, he draws his sword and charges in.
As the battle within him intensifies, a demonic arm begins to merge with the rest of Jinta's body, transforming him into something altogether different. His expression turns ice cold, and his eyes are filled with nothing but hate. When he looks at Suzune now, it's not with sadness, it's with pure disgust. She can't understand why, because all she ever wanted was to make him happy, and that's all she tried to do. But the look in his eyes tells her everything. He's done with her, just like everyone else. So she decides to end it. If Jinta is going to turn his back on her, then she'll kill him too. She drives her blade into his stomach, but nothing happens. Jinta doesn't even flinch. In the next second, he drives his fist straight through her chest. Suzune collapses, gasping, blood pouring out of her, but she's not dead yet. As Jinta moves in to finish her, someone intervenes, taking the full hit, sacrificing themselves to save her. As the figure starts fading, she tells Suzune to leave and run while she still can. Suzune stumbles away, weak and broken, but alive. Just before she disappears, she turns back one final time and tells Jinta that she has nothing left, that this world took everything from her, and no matter how long it takes, she'll be back. And when she returns, she'll burn it all to the ground. And on the final day, she'll kill him for betraying.
Hearing her vow, the intervening figure's eyes gleamed with wild excitement because she believes that by fulfilling Suzune's promise of vengeance, she has finally accomplished her purpose. Her maniacal laughter reverberates, inciting Jinta's fury as he struggles to understand how they could regard needless death as their ultimate goal. Calmly, she reveals that in the far future, she saw demons no longer existed. Humans had evolved so far that demons faded into myth. But now, with someone like Suzune alive and fully awakened, the bloodline won't end. She smiles one last time and fades away for good. Later, tragedy strikes in Kalano as a massive fire devastates the land and homes. Amid the ruins, Jinta cradles the lifeless body of the princess, consumed by guilt for failing to protect her, and he fervently confesses his love for her. The following morning, while the villagers begin rebuilding from the ashes, Jinta prepares to head out. The village leader greets him warmly and learns of his plans to venture forth and defend humanity against the looming threat of a demon lord, whom some fear might even be Suzune. The old man, with sorrow in his eyes, wonders if Jinta can truly bring himself to slay his own sister.
In response, Jinta bitterly declares that he has no choice but to harbor hatred for the one who murdered the woman he loved.
Oh, shit.
Even as he hopes for a more merciful resolution to come.
Bullshit. 100% bullshit.
Before departing, the village head presents Jinta with a revered sword, declaring that henceforth he shall be known by a new name, as per the story. Jinta, though feeling unworthy of such an honor, accepts it, and then sets off on his journey with the hope of one day saving the people from the coming calamity. As he departs, the chief vows to erect a shrine in his honor so that if he ever returns, the village will remember the hero he once was. Before he leaves, a close confidant rushes up to him, tearfully reminding him that she still sees him as the caring big brother he used to be. Jinta gently reassures her that he will return someday. With Kodono fading into the distance behind him, Jinta reflects on the demon's unsettling contentment in fulfilling its grim purpose. Steeling himself for the long and arduous journey ahead, he marches onward. After many years of travel, he finally arrives at a remote temple where he meets a young girl whom he believes to be the temple's Miko.
By the 1850s, Jinta had already established a strong reputation as a skilled demon slayer. One day, he was summoned by a wealthy man for what appeared to be an important mission. The man introduced Jinta to his assistant, Zenji, and told him that if he needed any further information, Zenji was the person to ask. After that, the man left, leaving the two of them alone. Zenji greeted Jinta politely and asked how much he had been told so far. Jinta replied that the man had already briefed him on his precious daughter, Natsu, and expressed concern about a demon that had been lurking nearby recently. But apparently, there was more to it. Jinta's real role was to serve as Natsu's personal bodyguard, because ever since she turned 13, she had been hearing a disturbing voice outside her room at night. The demon kept whispering eerie things like, "Return my daughter to me." Now, she was terrified that it might come to snatch her away. Before Zenji could provide more details, the door suddenly burst open and Natsu stormed in, clearly upset and looking for Zenji. Her eyes immediately locked onto Jinta, and she assumed this must be the bodyguard her father had mentioned. But when Jinta tried to introduce himself, she quickly shut him down. She wanted nothing to do with him and told him to leave, accusing him of being a shady wannabe demon hunter, trying to scam her family. Zenji tried to calm her down, explaining that her father had searched high and low for someone trustworthy and that Jinta was the real deal. But Natsu wasn't convinced. She demanded that Zenji throw him out. That night, Natsu was still wide awake, too anxious to sleep. She was sure the demon was coming back, so Zenji decided to stand guard outside her room to help her feel safe. Jinta would have been the smarter choice, but since she had basically kicked him out, Zenji had to take his place. He wasn't confident he would be of much use in a demon fight, but he promised to stay there until morning if it helped her sleep better. Natsu genuinely appreciated his presence, but she was still disappointed. Even Zenji seemed to doubt her story. Her father hadn't believed her either, because if he did, why would he hire some random wandering samurai instead of someone he trusted? Zenji admitted he wasn't sure whether her father truly believed in demons, but what he could say for certain is that the man genuinely cared about her and wanted her to be safe, even if they weren't related by blood. At that moment, Natsu heard the same chilling voice again, and it nearly scared her out of her mind. She panicked and begged Zenji to do something, but the instant he saw the demon, he was just as shaken as she was. He told Natsu to stay locked inside her room while he tried to deal with the situation, even though he had absolutely no idea how to fight something like this. The demon moved closer, and Zenji braced for the worst, but right before its claws could reach him, its arm was suddenly severed clean off in a flash. Jinta stepped out of the shadows calmly, demanding the demon to reveal itself. When it didn't respond, he didn't hesitate. One smooth, heavy strike cut it cleanly in two. The demon collapsed and vanished into black smoke, meaning that for now, Natsu and Zenji were safe. Natsu immediately recognized Jinta as the man she had thrown out earlier. He turned to her and asked if she still thought he was some kind of con artist. She stared at the fading smoke and asked if the demon was truly gone. But Jinta told her it wasn't that simple. From his experience, demons only stay dead if they vanish into white mist. Since this one turned black, it was definitely going to come back. The next day, Zenji formally thanked Jinta for saving them, and since they both knew the demon wasn't finished yet, Zenji asked him to stay another night. Jinta agreed without hesitation, but he had some questions, especially about Natsu. Ever since he heard that thing whisper, "Return my daughter to me," he had been wondering if something deeper was going on. Zenji nodded and began to explain. Natsu's biological parents were distant relatives of the boss, but they had passed away some years ago. The boss took her in and raised her as if she were his own daughter. If Jinta worried that Natsu might be some kind of demon child, Zenji was quick to dismiss the idea. If that were true, the boss would never have taken her in. His hatred for demons ran deep. His wife was killed by one, and after that, his son disappeared and was never seen again. The man had lost everything to demons and despised them with every fiber of his being. That evening, during dinner, Natsu sat across from her adoptive father. He asked how things were going with her new bodyguard. She admitted she had her doubts about Jinta at first, but after what she witnessed the night before, she was convinced she was legitimate. Still, she wanted to know why her father had chosen him of all people. He leaned back and explained that there had been more demon sightings recently around Edo Town. Not only that, but there were rumors of a wandering swordsman who could kill any demon with a single strike, provided he was paid. Her father had investigated personally and confirmed the rumors were true. That swordsman was Jinta, and he knew no one else would be better suited to protect her daughter. Natsu felt relieved knowing her father actually believed her about the demon, because his trust meant more to her than anything. Ever since he took her in, she had been genuinely happy, but even with that, it hadn't been easy. She constantly dealt with the cruel things people whispered behind her back, and it was wearing her down.
だから男じゃなくて女を
Later that evening, as planned, Zenji and Jinta sat near Natsu's room keeping watch. Suddenly, Natsu stepped outside and asked for Jinta's name. since she had never let him properly introduce himself before. Now that she saw how much her father trusted him, she decided to trust him as well. Jinta immediately noticed how deeply Natsu cared about her adoptive father, Kyuzo. But honestly, it made sense. He gave her a home when she had nowhere else to go, so of course she was grateful. While they were on the subject, Jinta brought up something he'd been wondering about. He asked if she knew anything about the rumors concerning Kyuzo's missing son. The moment he mentioned it, Natsu snapped, saying she knew nothing. Her voice was sharp and defensive. Clearly, it wasn't something she was ready to discuss. Jinta didn't press further. He backed off, deciding it wasn't worth upsetting her. Then Natsu asked if it was even possible for a demon and a human to have a child. Jinta told her it was. That answer seemed to shake her. She began to wonder aloud if maybe she was the daughter of the demon stalking her. But Jinta shut that thought down immediately. He told her there was no way she was related to that thing. She asked how he could be so sure. Jinta explained that he had crossed paths with the demon before, so he knew what it was, and he knew it wasn't her mother. He went on to explain that demons can be born in several ways, some from two demons, others from a demon and a human. But in rarer cases, a demon needs no parents at all. Sometimes demons just appear when heavy emotions, usually anger, grief, or hate, build up inside people and fester long enough. Those feelings can take shape and manifest into creatures like the one hunting her. Right then, the demon appeared again. Natsu began to panic, but Jinta calmly stepped toward it and tried speaking, asking for its name. It was clear, however, that the creature wasn't capable of thinking or speaking. As it lunged at him, Jinta struck it clean across the face and pinned it firmly to the ground like it was nothing. Zenji shouted at Jinta to just finish it already, but Jinta shook his head and said, "There's no point, it'll just come back." Natsu, completely confused, asked why. Jinta explained that the demon wasn't summoned or sent, it was born. Its existence came from her emotions. It manifested because deep down, Natsu believed that if something terrifying happened, like a demon attack, it would make her father pay more attention to her. At first, Natsu denied this. She didn't want to believe she was responsible for all of it, but as she thought about it, every word Jinta said began to hit too close to home. All she ever wanted was to be seen as Kyuzo's true daughter. She thought that if she was in danger, if she was vulnerable enough, maybe finally, he would treat her like family.
Feeling the weight of everything, Natsu faced the monster within her. Jinta told her that the only true way to banish the demon was to confront her feelings head on, to face them rather than hide behind them. Natsu admitted she didn't even know where to start. Jinta reassured her it wasn't complicated. She just needed to be honest with herself, accept how she felt, then look the demon in the eye and ask it to end. Natsu took a moment, and in the quiet that followed, clarity washed over her. All she ever wanted was to be loved by Kyuzo, as someone who genuinely mattered to him, but somewhere along the way, she had convinced herself that he didn't and never would. So she began believing that if she put herself in danger, maybe then he'd finally see her. Now that twisted, desperate part of her stood right before her in the form of this demon. In some way, this demon was a part of her. Before she could get lost in guilt, Zenji stepped in. He told her not to let those thoughts consume her. Yes, the demon had sprung from her pain, but what mattered now was moving beyond it. He reminded her that Kyuzo loved her more than she realized, and she loved him just as much, but neither of them was good at expressing it. Zenji promised to help her work through all of that from now on. Hearing that gave Natsu the strength to finally release the feelings that had created the demon in the first place. With a deep breath, Natsu told Jinta to end it. Without hesitation, he drew his blade and sliced the creature cleanly in two. This time, it faded into soft white mist, a sign Jinta had been waiting for. The demon wouldn't be coming back, or so it seemed. Later that night, once Natsu was fast asleep, something unexpected happened. The demon's form began to reappear. Jinta, who stayed up just in case, wasn't surprised. He had suspected this might happen. If the demon was made purely from Natsu's emotions, it should have vanished the moment she let go, but it hadn't, which meant someone else's pain was part of it too. In this house, in this region, the only other person who had ever come close to becoming a demon was Kyuzo's late wife. Now, with Natsu's feelings no longer fueling it, the demon started to fall apart, struggling to hold itself together. As it cried out for its daughter again, it didn't call for Natsu, it called for Suzune. That was when everything clicked. Jinta wasn't just some wandering swordsman, he was Kyuzo's long-lost son, and this demon was Suzune, Jinta and Natsu's mother. Jinta didn't really remember much about his mother when she was alive, but seeing what she had become was painful. The only thing he could do now was set her free, to give her the peace she had never been able to find. On her own.
The next morning, Jinta prepared to leave. As he headed out, Zenji and Natsu came to see him off and thank him once more. But Jinta just waved it off, saying he had already been paid. Truthfully, this was something he needed to do anyway. Natsu tilted her head, confused. Jinta explained that with age comes perspective. Looking back, he could see things more clearly than ever before. He had always thought taking Suzune and running away was the right thing to do. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. But he never stopped to consider how that choice might have affected the people he left behind. behind or the world they were part of. Natsu still didn't quite understand, so Jinta just smiled and told her never to take her father's kindness for granted. Then he turned and walked away. A short moment later, Kyuzo stepped outside. Zenji asked why he hadn't come out earlier to say goodbye. Kyuzo shrugged. He didn't need to. He already knew Jinta would handle everything. Zenji asked how he could be so sure. Why put so much faith in a man he barely knew? Kyuzo simply said it was natural for a father to believe in his son. They still hadn't figured out that Jinta was his son, and he didn't plan to explain anything to them. Then he told Zenji to stop standing around and get back to work before he ended up demoted. Not wanting to push his luck, Zenji hurried off to his duties, leaving Kyuzo standing alone. Right before he turned to leave, Natsu called out to him. She asked if there was anything she could do to help around the estate. He raised an eyebrow and asked why she was suddenly offering. She said Jinta told her she should try to repay her father's kindness, and that got a rare smile appeared on Kyuzo's face. It meant a great deal to him to know that Jinta still regarded him as someone worthy of respect, but he gently told her that she didn't owe him anything because the greatest thing a child can ever do for a parent is to live a good, happy life. With that, he went inside, leaving Natsu feeling so happy from his words that she wanted to help around the estate. So she followed him. The story then jumps ahead to the year 1853, where Jinta sat in a modest soba shop waiting for his meal. The owner's daughter carefully brought the soba to his table, while her father watched with quiet pride, pleased to see that she was learning the ropes. The owner struck up a conversation, mentioning that disturbing rumors had been spreading. Talk of a serial killer stalking the streets. Casting a worried glance at his daughter, he admitted the news was making him nervous. He sighed and said he wished the emperor would get his act together already. Jinta quickly told him to watch his language. The owner agreed, laughing awkwardly. He definitely didn't want his shop burned down just 10 days after opening. He confessed that he had gotten the place for cheap after buying it from the previous owner, but now he was wondering why Jinta had been showing up for soba 5 days in a row, considering how empty the shop always was. His daughter warned him he was probably scaring away the one customer they did have, but the owner waved her off, saying they were just making small talk. Then he turned to Jinta and asked how the soba tasted. Jinta gave a straightforward answer. It wasn't bad, just plain. The owner chuckled and admitted he didn't have much talent for cooking. He only made soba because he loved it. Jinta couldn't help but ask why he even opened a shop, and the man simply said he had his reasons.
After finishing his meal, Jinta paid the bell, and the owner casually noted that he seemed to be doing all right financially for a Ronin. Jinta shrugged and said he earned his money by slaying demons. The owner laughed, thinking Jinta was joking, but Jinta headed for the door without another word. Before he could leave, the owner stopped him and brought up something strange. According to rumors, this so-called slasher didn't use a sword. Every body found so far had been torn to shreds, completely mangled. What was worse, the numbers didn't add up. More people had gone missing than bodies recovered. Folks were starting to believe it wasn't a human doing this. They said it had to be demons. Jinta asked where these incidents usually happened, and the owner told him the sightings were around the Idashi area. As Jinta stepped out, the daughter called after him to be careful. He simply replied that he wasn't a child. That night, Jinta positioned himself near a bridge, waiting in the shadows for the demon to appear. Hours passed, but nothing unusual happened. Just as he was about to leave, a woman's scream echoed through the night. Without hesitation, Jinta bolted toward the sound. When he arrived, he found several mangled corpses scattered on the ground, but no sign of the demon. He glanced around confused. He definitely heard a woman scream, but there wasn't a single woman in sight. As he scanned the area more closely, something invisible lashed out at him, but Jinta barely dodged in time. The invisible demon struck again, and this time, Jinta managed to block the blow. But before he could counterattack, the demon vanished and reappeared behind him, landing a hit that cut him. Annoyed, Jinta morphed his arm into its transformed state. The demon charged once more, but this time Jinta countered, shattering its blade in the process. The creature tried to escape, but Jinta landed a deep slash before it could flee and called it the Slasher. Hearing the name, the demon suddenly stopped and became visible, revealing himself. Jinta narrowed his eyes and demanded a name, warning that if he didn't get one, the next swing would be fatal. The demon finally introduced himself as Mosuk. Jinta didn't hesitate and moved in to finish him off, but Mosuk threw up his hands and said he didn't want to fight. Jinta halted, confused. If he didn't want to fight, then why attack? Mosuk explained that he thought Jinta was the serial killer. He'd heard the same rumors about a demon behind him. Mosuk explained that the murders had led him to follow a strong demonic scent, which eventually brought him face to face with with Jinta. The moment Jinta called him the slasher, Mosik realized he'd made a mistake. Still confused, Jinta asked why a demon would be hunting down a killer in the first place. Mosik replied that this wasn't the place to chat. They risked being spotted and needed somewhere more private. Cut to the two of them sitting inside Mosik's home, where the demon now looked entirely human. Mosik explained that as demons grow older, many choose to live quiet lives by blending into society. They didn't exactly lie, but they did hide the truth, and Jinta already knew that much. Mosik poured them both some cheap liquor, assuring Jinta it wasn't poisoned. Jinta replied that it wouldn't matter anyway. Poison wouldn't kill him.
As they drank, Mosik said he was just a regular villager scraping by in a dingy back alley house. But Jinta knew better. Mosik was a demon, a rare kind, capable of completely erasing his presence from the world. Mosik called his ability invisibility. He was one of the superior demons, a kind that had lived for over a century. Jinta was surprised. He expected someone that old to be much stronger. But Mosik chuckled and explained that the title superior referred to their awakened abilities, not raw strength. In fact, some superior demons like him were physically weaker and slower than even average demons. Jinta got the sense that Mosik really wasn't the killer, and Mosik knew Jinta wasn't either. Jinta decided to believe him, but something still felt off. If Mosik thought Jinta was the slasher, why had he attacked immediately instead of confirming it first? Mosik admitted it was personal. He asked Jinta if he'd heard the rumors about the disappearances. Jinta said he had, and even confirmed some himself earlier, when he heard a woman scream but found no trace of her body. That's when Mosik told him the truth. The slasher only killed men on the spot, but women were abducted. Jinta asked how Mosik could be so sure. Mosik clenched his fist and said the demon had taken his wife. Her name was Hatsu. She was a kind-hearted human who accepted him despite him being a demon. A month ago, she vanished without a trace. 10 days later, her body washed up by the Kandor River. The officer he spoke to said she'd been horribly violated before she died. Mosik's voice shook as he spoke. Hatsu had been a bright light, sweet, sociable, and the only one who ever looked at him with genuine love. She didn't deserve what happened to her. Mosik admitted he'd never cared much for humans, but he loved her with everything he had. Now all he felt was rage, pure hatred for the thing that took her from him in such a vile and unforgivable way. He swore he'd get revenge. He asked Jinta to step aside and leave the killer to him, but Jinta refused. Mosik asked why. Jinta simply said it was his job to slay demons. Mosik understood, so he said that in that case, they'd do this together. But when they found the slasher, he wanted to be the one to finish it. That's when Jinta stopped him and asked if revenge was really what he was after. Mosik stared at him for a moment, then asked if he doubted him. Jinta said, no, it's not about doubt, but no matter who's behind this, human or demon, someone's life is going to be taken, so you need to be sure you're ready to carry that weight. Mosik told him, demons don't lie, not even to ourselves, and that goes for how we feel too. With that, Jinta agreed they'd handle this together. The next night, the two of them scoured the city, gathering information about the slasher. They questioned everyone they could, but came up with nothing. It was frustrating, and they weren't exactly thrilled with their lack of progress, but they knew they had to keep pushing.
Later, the two were back at Mosuk's place, sharing some sake. Mosuk decided to ask Jinta a question that had been on his mind. Why did he hunt his own kind? Jinta said it was mostly for the money. There was no shortage of humans who hated demons and were willing to pay a pretty sum to see them wiped out. Mosuk figured there was more to it than that. He didn't see Jinta as the kind of man who killed without reason, so he pressed him for the real reason. Jinta leaned back and said it was also about power, because he was on a mission to Jinta then talked about a certain demon, which surprised Mosuk because Jinta had said he wanted to stop it, not kill it. Jinta explained that he was born human, but after witnessing a demon murder the woman he loved, something inside him broke, and he became what he was now. That's why killing demons who threatened humans felt so natural to him. Mosuk was stunned. Despite everything, Jinta still wanted to spare the one who destroyed his life. Jinta said Mosuk wouldn't know what to do until the day he finally faced that demon. Until then, he needed strength. Mosuk admitted it was a lot to take in, but Jinta called him spineless. Then Jinta turned the question back on Mosuk. Once he got his revenge, what was he planning to do?
Mosuk went quiet for a moment before saying he never wanted any of this. The only reason he tried living like a human was because he hated violence and never wanted to be hunted by humans. He never wanted to fight other demons either. He only wanted a quiet life with the woman he loved. When this was over, he planned to go back into hiding and tend to Hatsu's grave. That would be the end of it. Jinta remembered something Mosuk had said earlier, that he wasn't the kind of person who acted without reason. But that wasn't true, because he was carrying a mindless hatred for his sister. The next day, Jinta was back at the usual Soa shop,
quietly eating lunch. The owner's daughter casually asked if he had any luck tracking down the slasher, but Jinta said things weren't going well. The owner grumbled that making a living was damn near impossible these days. Jinta agreed, then nodded toward the girl, saying that with a cute waitress like Afu, they should be packed by now. Maybe people in Edo were just too busy to notice. The owner smiled, glad someone thought his daughter was beautiful. Jinta said confidently that 8 out of 10 people would probably agree with him. The owner grinned, telling Jinta he had good taste, but Afu quickly stepped in and told her father not to get ahead of himself. He reminded her loudly that she'd never even had a relationship before, saying maybe this was a good chance for her. Embarrassed, Afu cut him off, asking him not to put Jinta on the spot. She told him not to worry, she'll leave the nest when the time was right. For now, she just wanted a little more time to be his daughter. Her father quieted down, understanding what she meant. She then turned to Jinta with an apologetic smile and said sorry about all that, but Jinta didn't mind one bit. In fact, he said she was lucky to have a father like that. She said she was proud of her old man, but wondered what his father was like. He explained he had a younger sister, but their father never treated her right. He said she didn't belong in the family and beat her for things she couldn't control. That's why Jinta took her and ran away from home, but it had been a long time ago. She gently asked if he hated his father for that, but Jinta said no. Now he understood why his father acted the way he did. It didn't make it right, but he understood. Later that night, Jinta was once again out patrolling with Mosuk, searching for any signs of the slasher. The trail was cold and there was nothing so far. Mosuk mentioned there hadn't been any new sightings recently, so there was no point in wandering around blindly. Just then, he noticed a figure standing by a tree. It turned out to be Afu. Jinta told him she was the daughter
Of the soba shop Jinta always visited, Mosu quietly noted that it wasn't safe for her to be out this late. Jinta nodded and began walking toward her. Afu looked up and asked what he was doing out there alone. Then Jinta noticed that Mosuk had already turned invisible again. He quietly told him to escort her just in case.
Warned Mosuk that lurking around alone would be dangerous for Afu if she ran into the demon by herself. Jinta then asked Afu what she was doing out at such a late hour. She smiled and said she was just out admiring the cherry blossoms. Jinta pointed out that these weren't cherry blossoms, they were willows. Afu laughed softly and gently corrected him. She explained these were called snow willows. Technically, they weren't true willows, nor were they quite cherry blossoms either. They just resembled willows in how they hung, but belonged to the same family as cherries. So basically, they were neither cherry blossoms nor willows. It was a little bit of both, and yet neither. Jinta looked at the tree for a moment and said it seemed like a pitiful kind of plant. Afu disagreed, saying she thought it was beautiful. Even if it didn't perfectly fit into either category, it still bloomed lovely flowers every year. She didn't know exactly what the plant felt, but if it were truly sad and empty, it wouldn't keep blooming the way it did.
Afu said that the slosher didn't need his pity because it would keep blooming every spring no matter what people called it. That's just how it lived. Jintel looked at the flower again and realized she was right. That truly was its way of life. He then told her they should head back because her father was probably worried sick by now.
That concludes this episode. Thank you for watching. If you want to see the next part, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell.
And if you want to see more interesting videos, then check out this video about a girl who keeps forgetting her glasses down below.